Everybody's
great. Thank you, Katie, for getting us up and started. I think it's a tree chopper outside my window. Awesome. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So hi, everyone. Welcome to today's TA Talk for an introduction to the National Paralysis Resource Center. My name is Amity Overall Labe, and I'm the NORC Director. I'm so glad that you're here with us today to learn about this center, as it has numerous resources and ways to support individuals living with paralysis that you can share with residents, long-term care facilities, and their loved ones. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping issues. Next slide. Thanks. So as a reminder, for those that have been on these calls before, or maybe some that are new to us, these talks are rather informal. We do them quarterly, and they're usually on specific topics that you've asked about or that we've learned about and want to share with you. We're hosted on Zoom, but also live streamed on Facebook. You have an opportunity, obviously, to learn from your peers and receive technical assistance from us directly. So there will be time at the end of this call where you can ask questions. And when you ask those questions, you can unmute yourself and ask via audio by raising your hand, and we'll let you know when to unmute, or you can type your question into the chat. Our meeting is being recorded, and the PowerPoint will be shared not just with all the registrants, but with our whole network later, as well as the recording. Please complete the evaluation questionnaire using the link that's provided in the chat, and it's also in one of the last slides of today's call. You may also be familiar with our certificates of participation. We do provide those to everyone that's attending on Zoom, not Facebook, for at least 30 minutes of the training. And the certificate will indicate how long you are on the training, so that can be used towards your continuing education. We will do our best to post links to resources in the chat box, but they're also available on the slides. And please hit us up with any ideas you have for topics. You can see the email address there. Let us know what you want to learn about or discuss with your peers. Next slide. So with that housekeeping out of the way, I'm very excited to introduce our speakers today, Rebecca Salzbach and Emily Walensky. Rebecca has been a member of the Reeve Foundation for 16 years. She's currently the manager for the Peer and Family Support Program, which provides peer mentoring for people living with paralysis, their family members, and caregivers. Rebecca holds a Bachelor of Arts in English from Drew University and a Master of Social Work from Rutgers. She's previously worked with children and adolescents in the foster care system as a social worker. And Emily, she serves as the Director of Outreach and Education at the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. She has over 25 years of experience advocating for policies and practices that support and protect the quality of life for individuals living with disabilities, including all forms of paralysis. Her proudest professional accomplishments have focused on peer support, using storytelling as a survival tool, and leading initiatives that amplify access to education, employment, and resources. Emily holds 2 master's degrees in counseling and educational administration with demonstrated skills in nonprofit leadership, project direction, coaching, educational technology, instructional design, and communications. She lives in Austin, Texas, and spends a lot of time trying to water her plants that haven't seen rain for many, many months. So we're very pleased to have these excellent speakers with us today. After you hear from them, we'll open it up for questions and discussion. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat as you have them, or you can just wait till the end of their presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily. Next slide, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today and for hearing all about our National Paralysis Resource Center. The title of our presentation is Exploring the Supports of the National Paralysis Resource Center. Thank you. Again, we've already been introduced, so thank you so much for that, Amity. That was a great introduction. Rebecca, I don't know if you want to just say hi really quick, and then I can, that's it. We'll just kind of go through.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Saltzball with the Reeve Foundation, and just want to thank you for joining us today for this webinar. We're excited to present to you on the National Paralysis Resource Center, and just a big thank you to Amity for extending the invitation and opportunity for Emily and I to do so.
Today, our objectives for this presentation are going to be to gain an understanding of how the National Paralysis Resource Center can benefit people living with paralysis, all different forms of paralysis, their families and caregivers. We'll also explain how we'll try to give you an understanding of how the NPRC can support your role as an ombudsman. And we will identify beneficial resources for you and your clients from the NPRC, and we'll show you how to learn. We'll show you how to access those resources at the NPRC. Oops. Okay, so at the National Paralysis Resource Center, and I'll kind of interchange that with NPRC, our acronym. We formed in 2002. Christopher Reeve, who many of you probably know, was a celebrity. He was Superman. So in the 1980s, Christopher Reeve was. I grew up watching Superman, and then when I got to college, I think the nation was pretty shocked to learn that he was injured and became a quadriplegic. So he experienced a form of paralysis due to injury. And so he and his wife, Dana, began the National Paralysis Resource Center after years of working with other organizations and things that finally kind of came together as the Christopher Reeve Foundation, and later Dana was added to the name. So in 2002, Dana was really promoted working on the quality of life side for families, while Christopher was kind of more focused on the care side, and on the cure side. So Christopher Reeve was more focused in research and trying to essentially work on treatment and ways to make his body and in a better place. And Dana was focused more on the care side. And so she worked really hard to get the National Paralysis Resource Center established. So when the doors opened, we began with setting up information specialists. So that's a team of people that would answer questions to families all over the nation, anywhere actually, all over the world, and provide support to families and caregivers and people living with paralysis, giving them basic information, but also kind of helping them figure out how to navigate life with paralysis. The Peer and Family Support Program, which Rebecca works in that program, and that was also established, and that was to give people peer support, because peers, they have a powerful amount of empathy for the situation that people with paralysis and their families are going through. So the Peer and Family Support Program was another major hub of establishment, I guess you could say, in this National Paralysis Resource Center. And then we have our Quality of Life Grants program. And that program is really amazing because it supports people living with paralysis, but it supports nonprofits that work with individuals that have paralysis. So, and we've given millions and millions of dollars to different nonprofits, small nonprofits all over the country, and that mirror our mission and to improve the quality of life of people living with paralysis. And then we have the Military and Veterans Program, which supports the unique needs of the service members that have gotten paralysis even after serving. And so we have a pretty extensive program we call it MVP. So QOL is quality of life, MVP is military, and so we usually use our acronyms. All of this, the National Paralysis Resource Center is not funded through private dollars. It's 100% funded through the Administration for Community Living, ACL, which is within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So we receive, we've been given a 5-year grant to run the NPRC, and every 5 years we reapply, and we hopefully will continue to get funded. This year we have $10 million and from ACL, and we are in year 3 of our 5-year cycle. So that's a little bit about us. We're going to learn a lot more about us, actually. So I've already talked about like the 4 big heavy hitters. So the 4 heavy hitters are the IS program, Information Specialists, PFSP, which is our Peer and Family Support, QOL, which is our Quality of Life, and MVP, which is the Military and Veterans Program. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail about that. But some of the other things that we have are every year we have a summit. And I am planning that summit right now. I'm in the thick of it. And our summit this year is going to be in Washington, D.C., and it's from March 6th to March 8th. So if you at all are interested in learning more about that summit, please reach out to us. Our website can get you there, and you can fill out a little form that says you want more information. But that summit really is where we bring together the entire mission, where we have presentations about treatments and medical research that's being done on spinal cord injury. And then we also have a huge focus on the National Paralysis Resource Center's different initiatives. And so we're doing the summit. Another thing that we have is the Paralysis Resource Guide, which comes out on a pretty regular basis and gets updated. We're in many editions of it, but we're getting a new edition in January. And we have given out over 225,000 copies to our community of this 400-page paralysis resource guide, which we'll talk about a little further, but it's pretty awesome. And then we have 250,000 plus page views for our health-related materials. We have over 3 million users that come to our social media channels and come to our website annually. And so, these are some pretty cool first line of defense or first line of support resources that people have. We're usually the first call that people make when someone in their family is or themselves are diagnosed with paralysis.
Okay, so I will take it from here. I'm going to present information, more detailed information on some of the programs that Emily has very briefly introduced you to. So we will start with our information specialist team. They have been with the National Paralysis Resource Center from day one when it opened back in 2002. And they provide assistance to people as they move through various stages of their injury, their spinal cord injury, or their other paralysis causing condition. And we also help their family members. And in addition to helping sort of in the various stages of their injury, we can help people as they transition through life and as they come upon new challenges and have new needs and need different support. So we're here for people with paralysis as well as their family members. This team answers any and all questions related to living with paralysis, and they assist individuals with locating needed resources. They're also responsible for sending out all of our National Paralysis Resource Center written materials, and those go out both by email and by regular mail. And the team can provide assistance on all aspects of life with paralysis. And just to give you a few examples of the things they can help with, they can help with someone who wants to learn how to drive, wants to start traveling. They can help with home modifications and secondary conditions and answering people's questions about those topics and many, many more. Some of the common questions that our information specialist team has heard over the years, I just want to give you sort of a brief sampling of them to for the sort of illustrate how our information specialist team can help people. A lot of times they're asked, how can I get funding for, sort of fill in the blank, any kind of need, such as a ramp to make a home accessible or other home modifications. People sometimes need funding for a modified vehicle or perhaps to go back to college. And our information specialist team is really great about pointing them in the direction of organizations and agencies that can help them with that funding. From family members, we often hear from people whose loved ones are newly injured, and they need to know how they can choose a rehab for their loved one with paralysis. And they're also asked if there's a clinical trial that they might be eligible for. And another question that comes in from our family members and caregivers is, can they get paid for being a family caregiver? One contacts an information specialist. That information specialist listens to their concerns and gathers any and all pertinent information. The information specialist will then conduct research based on the individual's concerns, their location, their available resources, their language preference, and anything else that is relevant to the person's question or the person's need. And the individual will then receive a customized answer and resources. And if they have needs down the line, they can always reach back out. Those information specialists will always be there for them. We have people who come back to us over the years, come back to us many times over the years. They might have sort of dropped off our radar for a few years, and then they have a new challenge or a new need, and they call that information specialist back because they need help again. And I just also wanted to mention that all of the resources, materials, and programs that are offered through the NPRC are all free of charge. Next slide, please. So here I wanted to highlight some of the resources that we have specifically for caregivers. And first up, I will read the image description of the photo that we have here on this slide. This is a close-up photo of Dana Reeve with her hands on her husband, Christopher Reeve's face. They are looking into each other's eyes and smiling. So for caregivers, we have a section of our website devoted to caregivers, and it includes a lot of great tips for caregiving, as well as links to other helpful information. Also on our website, we have blogs and other content that is written by caregivers, and it's intended for caregivers. We have a virtual support group that is held twice a month, and that is especially for caregivers and family members. And I'm going to be talking about those virtual support groups in more detail in just a moment. And we also have our peer mentoring program that extends to caregivers. And when people ask for a mentor through the mentoring program, if they're a caregiver, they're going to be matched with another caregiver for guidance, support, and conversation. So next slide, please. I also wanted to mention a couple of other caregiver resources that we have. In our Paralysis Resource Guide, we have 2 sections that are available for caregivers. They are Navigating the System and our Caregiving section. And caregivers can also go to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation's YouTube channel, where we have lots of webinars that cover topics related to caregiving there. So these are 2 more ways that we support and provide information to our caregivers and family members. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to discuss our Peer and Family Support Program, which I am a part of. I'm on the Peer and Family Support Program team. This is the Resource Center's national peer-to-peer mentoring program. It supports people who are living with paralysis, as well as their family members and caregivers. And our mentors are all trained and certified by the program. So I now wanted to point to the image here on the screen. This is 2 women in manual wheelchairs sitting next to each other and smiling. And I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce you to these 2 women. On the right-hand side of the picture is Ashley, who is one of our peer mentors. And with her is Brooke sitting next to her. And Brooke is one of our peers, and we call peers are what we call people who are receiving mentoring. So Ashley and Brooke are a mentor and peer match. They're in a mentoring relationship. They were matched a number of years ago when Brooke was newly injured as a teenager. And Ashley was really crucial to helping Brooke adjust to having a spinal cord injury and living with paralysis. She really helped Brooke to make that adjustment. And after that, Ashley went on to support Brooke in a lot of different life transitions. She helped her transition to college, get married, and have children. So that's just, you can see there sort of how the mentoring relationship moves beyond that initial adjustment to going on through life transitions and living a full, healthy, and active life. To this day, they remain in close contact and they text frequently. Ashley actually attended Brooke's wedding, and they now consider each other to be family. I believe Brooke still refers to Ashley as her big sister. So that's just a really wonderful example of how peer mentoring works and how impactful it can be. And then I also wanted to share with you that our peers are both newly injured individuals. When someone sustains a new spinal cord injury or when someone has the onset of paralysis, that's a really crucial time where mentoring can be very, very helpful. But we also help those who have been living with paralysis for 5, 10, 15 or more years. They may be facing changes or new challenges or again, life transitions, and they just want to talk to someone who has gone through the same thing and can provide them with support and perspective. And I just wanted to mention that over the years, we've heard from peers about the benefits of having a mentor, and just wanted to highlight a few of those again to sort of demonstrate the impact of mentoring. Our peers have reported that they feel reduced feelings of isolation, increased knowledge about living with paralysis and all the resources that are available to them. They've also gained a strengthened sense of self-determination. And I think this is a really important one. Mentoring has improved our peers' outlook on life with paralysis and given them optimism about the future. It's a very powerful thing to be with someone, with a mentor who can serve as a role model, show you a way forward, and really demonstrate how to live a healthy, active, full, and independent life with paralysis. That's really impactful for so many of our peers. We do match our mentors and peers closely to really maximize the impact of the mentoring relationship. They are matched based on their level and cause of paralysis, age, gender, and anything else that is important to that peer. For example, if a peer was active in sports prior to their spinal cord injury and they'd like to get back to being in sports, we can match them with a mentor who plays a lot of adaptive sports and can really help them get back into sports and athletics. And just to note that our family members are matched with mentors based on their relationship to their loved one with paralysis. So we match dads with dads, moms with moms, wives with wives, siblings with siblings. And you can request a mentor by calling the Reeve Foundation or visiting our website at christopherreeve.org/peer, where you can complete an online form, or you can schedule a call with one of our program coordinators. That's a great way to talk to someone from the program, find out how it works, and let that program coordinator know what you want in a mentor so that they can begin the matching process. And next slide, please. In addition to offering one-on-one peer mentoring, the Peer and Family Support Program also runs virtual support groups. We have Living with Paralysis support groups and Caring for a Family Member with Paralysis support group. Each of these groups is free of charge. They are led by a mental health professional. Currently, those are all licensed social workers. And then they're also led by a peer with lived experience. So we have 2 different people leading the group. We do have separate Living with Paralysis support groups. One is for people living with paraplegia, the other is for people living with quadriplegia. And the reason that we do that is so that the members of the group all have a similar level of function. These groups just provide a great opportunity for people to connect with others and gain perspective, insight, support, and guidance. It's also a great way for people to, get a lot from the group, but they also can give back to the group as well. The meetings are conducted in an open forum, so it's a very conversational format, And the members are really encouraged to share their concerns, raise their questions, and bring up topics that are important to them. And each group does meet twice a month. And with that, I will turn things back to my colleague, Emily.
Well, hello again. One thing we forgot to do, Rebecca, was describe ourselves. I forgot about that. So I'm just going to take a moment right now to quickly describe myself. I am a Caucasian woman in my 40s. My hair is up in a high bun that you can't really see because I have a background on my Zoom that has a orange, yellow, and red background with blue. And our logo, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation logo. And if I sit back a little bit in my wheelchair here, I have a very patterned shirt on, blouse on, and that is it. Rebecca, do you want to describe yourself?
Sure. I'm a Caucasian woman. I have light brown hair, and today I'm wearing my reading glasses. And I also have a Reeve Foundation background, and I am wearing a multicolor shirt.
Thank you. So before I talk about quality of life, I do want to mention something about the Peer and Family Support Program. As a person with a form of quadriplegia, I don't have it from a spinal cord injury. I have it from a neuromuscular disability. And so I think when I first learned of what the Reeve Foundation offers, I had no idea that I even qualified for the National Paralysis Resource Center's programs, because I always associated quadriplegia, paraplegia with and paralysis in general with spinal cord injury. But it's not always about injury. People get paralysis in all kinds of different ways. Through stroke, through just various diseases, things that you can viruses, where suddenly you find yourself you're lacking in mobility, lacking in sensation, and so paralysis is really a very large umbrella. And so when we got the grant from the federal government to offer these resources, it's really important that the people that you work with know that they are covered by the National Paralysis Resource Center, because it's a very large umbrella. It's much bigger than just spinal cord injury. And so that's why, Quality of Life Grants program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit right now, is really cool, because there are a lot of nonprofits out there that are serving individuals with forms of paralysis and don't even know it. And so when they learn that, oh, you mean, so pretty much anyone in a wheelchair can qualify, like if that helps, that could help us get a grant. And we're like, yeah. So we have given many quality of life grants over the years, as you can see in the collage before you. There are various pictures of people, groups of people dancing, looking at, I guess, at festivals and looking, I don't know, there's a little boy and a woman, and the little boy's on the woman's lap. So I imagine that the woman is his mother. And so she's a parent with a form of paralysis, and her son, and they're looking at some kind of a photo, or some kind of banner. I can't really see it. But that's one photo. There's another photo of a woman and dancing with another woman, and that's, I guess, another nonprofit that we funded. There's a group of people. Some people are standing and some people are sitting in chairs, but they look happy. They're at an event. There's another picture of people using adaptive bikes, and they're biking down a trail. There is a small child, so we do serve children with various forms of paralysis, and that child is playing with it. I imagine an adaptive toy in a therapy setting. And then we have a group of people with their service animals, sitting in their wheelchairs, or not, and some instructors, I believe, and they have their service animals. So we really, the amount of nonprofits that we serve and their missions that mirror our mission is quite extensive. So if you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about the quality of life grant programs. So we've given over $41 million to 3,700 organizations since 1999. We provide grants to nonprofits that foster inclusion, involvement, and community engagement, while promoting health and wellness for those affected by paralysis in all 50 states and US territories. And we have 3 tiers of grants. So each tier of grant increases throughout the years, but if this could do, this really allows us to get into a lot of like, a lot of communities. Next slide, please. Right there is a picture of Alan. Alan works with us here at Reeve. His name is Alan Brown, and he is in front of the United States Capitol, and well, kind of in front of the pool that's in front of the Capitol. So it's kind of, the Capitol is kind of far back, but anyway, Alan is there probably for one of our advocacy events, because we have a lot of online and regional and federal advocacy work going on. So our online advocacy program has over 10,000 advocates from across the country. Our goal is to get 12,000 by the end of the year. So if you have clients or people that you work with that really want to get involved with like changing laws, making legislation, working on policy issues involving people living with paralysis, tell them to sign up with our online advocacy program and to become a regional champion. Our regional champion program, we have 72 grassroots advocates across 27 states. And they are basically, we want to have someone in every state and congressional district that's covered, and we want to basically create legislative first responders, which are people on the ground in their communities that really want to take action against policies and bills and laws that are about to be any kind of advocacy work that's going to change the law. In 2023, our federal priorities were to right now get the Air Carrier Access Amendments Act passing. So we've worked really hard to make it so planes have access. So recently it was passed that airplane bathrooms are going to now become accessible for people with disabilities, which is fantastic. We've also worked on initiatives that talk about funding caregiving. Caregivers are incredibly underpaid, undervalued in our society. We recognize this, and we want to see funding increase for home and community-based caregiving, and help people transition into home and community settings. We are looking at funding SCI model system centers. So an SCI model system is basically when you get a spinal cord injury, SCI. We have different centers around the country. There's, I believe, like 19 centers. I don't know, Rebecca, am I right? I think it's about 19 centers that are around the country. And those centers are really like, they work with rehab, and they help people with different spinal cord injuries, basically learn how to live again with their injury. We're also looking to provide funding for paralysis research, how to improve bowel bladder function, how to, skin care and prevent pressure injuries, and all of the things that happen when you have a mobility disability. So we're looking at research for that. And obviously we are advocating for funding for the National Paralysis Resource Center to continue and be recognized and valued for the important thing, the important thing that it is. It's amazing. So next slide, please. Our military and veterans program, as I mentioned before, it serves supports all military service members, no matter when they served. So their injury does not need to be combat or service related. It covers all the types of paralysis under the NPRC. It also covers caregivers. We offer more tailored information and referral services to our military and veterans program. Like, we also help individuals navigate benefits and like their military benefits and their civilian benefits, their civilian programs. We also have military and veteran peer mentors that are available through Rebecca's program, the Peer and Family Support Program. And we foster high levels of health, well-being, and independent living in that community. So we have a council that meets, we do a lot with that. So we're very, very proud of that program. Next slide, please. Right now, there are some things that are really exciting and new with Reeve. We have established a new quality of life grant that focuses on rural areas, because rural areas, you know, they don't have a lot of transportation. They don't have access to assistive technology as much. They don't have as many, you know, opportunities for employment and education. So we're really trying to bring together, we're trying to give grants to nonprofits that really focus on a lot of our goals. So peer and family support groups, health programs, agriculture, access to healthy foods, like I said, employment, assistive technology, transportation. So like, if you know of any nonprofits in rural areas, please encourage them to reach, you know, to apply for a quality of life grant. You guys know you know where to go. I know you do. Next slide, please. We also have some new booklets in our vast library of booklets. These two new ones are, we have our adaptive sports and recreation for booklets. Obviously, that's pretty much what it is. It talks about programs all around the country and can help people get connected to those programs. Also, it kind of talks about different types of sports that people are getting involved with and activities. Because, you know, a lot of people think when they become injured or they start to develop paralysis that that's kind of, they'll never be able to do the things, the recreation, the sports that they used to. And so this booklet kind of shows that there's a lot out there and there's a lot that's been developed. And so we have a booklet on that. And then we also have our emergency prep for people with paralysis booklet. And that is in high demand, just because of all the things going on with climate change. I know a couple of years ago, we had a horrible storm in Texas where I live. I have a ventilator that I use at night to help me breathe. I didn't have electricity for 80 hours. It was freezing cold. So it was a really rough time. And this booklet at the time didn't exist, but now it does. And what it does is it really gives a lot of comprehensive information about what to do in an emergency. The man that's on the front of our booklet, he actually, you know, he's the head, I believe, of the FEMA office. And of course, I can't remember his name, but there is a story from him in the booklet. And, you know, we worked with a lot of great folks in FEMA and around the country to help build the resources in that booklet for people. So it's wonderful. It's got great lists, you know, go bag lists and all the things. Next slide, please. I mentioned this earlier, but this is our 400-page paralysis resource guide. And this is amazing. It's in all types of formats. It's in all types of languages. It's got it all. And whenever we go to any kind of conference where there are health professionals, social workers, really just anywhere. I mean, when we go to the Abilities Expos around the country, people just eat this book up. They just love it. And then they also love our wallet cards. We have these wallet cards that you can put them in your wallet, although they're a little big for a wallet. I don't know, but you can put them in your purse. And these are free. Obviously, everything we have at the National Paralysis Resource Center is free. But they focus on secondary conditions like deep vein thrombosis, which is a really DVT, which blood clots are a big issue for people that are, not able to get up and walk around. Sometimes when you're stable, you develop more blood clots. A lot of people in long-term settings, the nursing home settings, they have issues with this as well. But these wallet cards, what they do is they explain to doctors that, this is what this is for us, for people with paralysis. This is what it looks like. But sometimes it looks a little different. And sometimes doctors aren't always as familiar with how paralysis impacts certain types of secondary conditions. Sepsis is another thing. There are signs of sepsis that show up. And sometimes with paralysis, it shows up a little differently. And so this wallet card kind of it provides a kind of an official word on how that impacts paralysis. And then autonomic dysreflexia, AD. AD is a condition that many people with paralysis experience because they can't regulate their blood pressure, they can't regulate their temperature. And so when you are dealing with autonomic dysreflexia, your body is kind of going crazy. And a lot of times doctors don't really aren't as familiar with that. So these wallet cards kind of educate health professionals in emergency settings of these conditions and how they impact our lives. Next slide, please. We have over 170 fact sheets on different disability related topics. So these are like quick and dirty, some fact sheets on emergency prep, employment, dating, fitness and exercise, housing, home modifications, insurance, parenting, travel, like anything that you can imagine. We've got a booklet or fact sheet that covers it. And so, we also have some patient education booklets, and those are focused more on, what patients could do to advocate for themselves, like I said, in a medical setting. So, how can we talk about pressure injuries and skin management, self-advocacy, talking to doctors, how do you establish a relationship with a specialist, and pain management, adaptive sports, like all of these things we offer people. So those are very popular. Next slide, please. And now it's Rebecca's turn.
Thank you very much, Emily. This image on our screen here on this slide is a screenshot of the State Resources webpage on the Reeve Foundation's website. So we have state fact sheets that contain information on resources for people living with paralysis, and they in a variety of categories. That information comes in lots of categories, and we have them for every state as well as Washington, D.C. You can access them using our website. You go to this page and you can download them as a PDF. You can also order copies of them be sent to you from our information specialist team. Some of the categories on these state fact sheets on this list of resources include resources for aging, assistive technology, caregiving, government offices, independent living, service animals, veterans benefits, condition-specific resources for people with ALS or brain injury or stroke, and lots of other different types of resources are available through these state resource lists. Next slide, please. As Emily mentioned, we also have the topical fact sheets. On this slide, we see a screenshot of the topic resources webpage that is again available on the Reeve Foundation's website. So the topical fact sheets provide information and resources on a vast array of paralysis topics. With these as well, you can download them as PDFs, or you can ask that the paper copies be sent to you by our information specialist team. And for both the topic resource lists as well as our state resource lists, they are all updated on a regular basis. We go in on a regular basis and make sure that all the content is current, all the information is correct. And then we also update them as we are made aware of, or we find other resources. We add them onto these, both the state resource lists and the topic resource lists. So we like to keep those updated and keep adding to them so that people have a real complete list of things that are available to them. Next slide, please. And so if you'd like to learn more about the major programs of the Reeve Foundation, of the National Paralysis Resource Center, you have the QR codes are available to you here. If you go to our website, christopherreeve.org, and you'd like to find out more about the peer mentoring program, you want to go to christopherreeve.org/peer. To access information about our military and veterans program, that webpage is at christopherreeve.org/military. If you'd like more information about our quality of life grants, again, you can visit their webpage at christopherreeve.org/QOL. And finally, if you'd like to get a hold of one of our information specialists, you can find their webpage at christopherreeve.org/ask. All of these web pages will give you more information on how to access that particular program. Next slide, please. And so if you'd like more information, you can call the National Paralysis Resource Center's general number, or you can get a hold of either myself or Emily if you have any questions, you'd like help with accessing one of the programs or some of our materials and resources. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to connect you with one of our colleagues in those programs. Finally, I just wanted to give a quick review of the objectives that Emily talked about when we first started our presentation. Emily and I hope that you have gained an understanding of how the supports of the Resource Center can benefit people who are living with paralysis, their families, and their caregivers. We also hope that you've gained an understanding of how the Resource Center can support you all in your role as an ombudsman. We hope that you've been able to identify beneficial resources for the people that you serve through the Resource Center and learned how to access the resources available through the National Paralysis Resource Center. And I just wanted to also note that in addition to people living with paralysis and their family members, we are also here to serve professionals who serve the paralysis community and need resources and information for their clients, their peers, or their consumers. So we hear from people, whether they're in school systems, looking for resources for a student. We hear from nurses, PTs, OTs, social workers, lots of different professionals. So we are there for them as well. And again, just wanted to remind everybody that everything that we offer is provided free of charge. Even if you're ordering paralysis resource guides to be shipped to you or to a client, the shipping for that is free as well. So we just like to make sure that everybody knows that. And with that, I believe we'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you so much, Rebecca and Emily. I was taking copious notes as you were speaking, even though I'd already seen your slides. I learned of even more resources that I wasn't aware of from the last time we did this webinar. Of course, I've always loved the mentor program and just think that's phenomenal, but your virtual support groups, the quality of life grants, the advocacy that you have 10,000 plus advocates online, that just blows my mind. And kudos for your work on the airplane bathroom issue. We've always wondered about that. And for the Consumer Voice Conference, which is our host entity for the Resource Center, we have a conference every year and residents come and they're often in wheelchairs and it's really hard for them to travel. So thank you for your work in all these areas. And for the Ombudsman on the call today, as I said, please drop your questions into the Q&A box, or you can put comments in the chat. I don't know about you all in your ombudsman work, but when I used to be out in the field in the Houston area, I knew of a few residents that were only in the nursing facility due to living with paralysis, and oftentimes younger individuals, often after an accident. So had I known about these resources at the time, it would have been phenomenal to connect them with them. So that is one reason I always want to bring this resource to you all. So one question I did see in the chat is, if your loved one is in a long-term care facility and has a stroke, can you help? Because as you mentioned, Emily, a lot of folks come to paralysis for a variety of reasons.
Right, and it's true. And stroke is the #1 form of paralysis. And so, yes, the answer is yes. No matter where you are, home, long-term care facility, no matter at what stage of life you're in, if you're experiencing a form of paralysis, we can cover it. We don't provide financial assistance to someone living with paralysis directly. That's where the QOL program comes in, the quality of life program. So, the QOL program gets money to then provide support to people that are living in their local areas. But what we can provide is information, and knowledge is power. And also the connection to other people living with paralysis. So, if you're in a long-term care facility and you're experiencing a certain situation and you need someone to talk to, someone that's been through it, we can get you connected with the peer and family support program easily. If you're looking to try to get back into the community and you want to go, if your client wants to leave the long-term facility and move home, but they need to modify their home, or they need to look at, like all the things that you've got to look into, our information specialists, if they call the 1-800 number, reach out, there could be, we could, get them connected to some support in that area. It's really, $10 million seems like a lot of money, but it doesn't, it's really not. It can't cover the amount of people living with disabilities in this country with mobility challenges. And, I think 1 out of every 4 people has some form of paralysis. I mean, in looking at my family, it's not just me. I have other members of my family that have experienced paralysis, either temporarily or permanently. And so, it's just, there's a lot of information there. And so we're really the first line of defense. We're really there to kind of give people an idea that they can live a very full quality, happy quality of life. They can have a great life. And so, it's a great it's an amazing center. I'm so proud to be the director of outreach and education, and and we're thrilled to do these types of presentations because we know that it's important for us to get the word out that we exist. So.
Absolutely. I just continue to be impressed by you all and your focus on rural areas too. I did notice that. And I think that's obviously so important because, like you said, they lack transportation and just resources oftentimes. So one question we did receive, and I recall you saying that you do provide information for providers. Are you aware of any training specific to CNAs, so the nurse aides, who may not be trained to care for a person living with paralysis that are in a facility setting? And if y'all don't do that, do you know of any resources we could direct folks to?
Rebecca, do you have any thoughts on that?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
It's a
certainly
really good idea.
it really is.
It really is. I mean, honestly, that's like, the training for CNAs and we can always do a presentation for CNAs. Like if there was some kind of, like similar to what you're doing right now, if there's a way we could bring a bunch of CNAs together and give a presentation to them on what we do, and working with people with paralysis, as people with paralysis, especially, like that's something we are very open to doing. So we don't know, like, we're not doctors, or, we're not going to talk about the medical side of things. We're going to be more talking about, like, just the interactions, the social interactions, like all of that. But yes, I see potential for that. It's definitely a great idea. So I'd love to train some CNAs.
Well, yeah, we'll talk more about that offline, because other ideas are popping up for opportunities of training, and at least sharing of resources. Because I'm thinking those, were they pocket cards or something about specific
Wallet cards, yeah.
conditions? So those wallet cards are free, And are they free to Ombudsman programs
Oh, yeah.
to call in? Okay, so it
Definitely.
doesn't have to be
So,
someone
yeah.
living with. Okay,
Like, and you can go online and fill out the form and order, and we can mail those out. We also have like a starter kit that we mail people, kind of like, so people
okay,
that are first injured, we have kind of a package that we can send them with, like, all of, like, that kind of covers a lot of the newly injured issues, I guess you could say.
yeah,
So yeah, tons of
great.
resources.
Because I'm thinking you ombudsmen in the field, those kind of cards could be really helpful when dealing with providers and supporting individuals with paralysis and long-term care. Because like you said, Emily and Rebecca, I think oftentimes, not that we forget, but folks living in long-term care facilities are often have some type of disability, either related, and so a lot of this is more applicable than people would initially think. So, and one other question in the chat, we did touch a little bit on the work in the rural areas, but someone asked if these resources would be available in rural areas. So anything else you want to share about that specific program or work?
I can say in terms of the peer mentors, we do, actually the overwhelming majority of mentoring that we do is remote. Our main concern is when we're matching people, that we're matching them according to the things that I mentioned, their level of injury, cause of paralysis, and so forth. So if you have someone who's in a real remote area, they can still connect with one of our mentors. They can do that by text, video chat, email, talking on the phone. So we definitely have mentors who are available, even to those people needing help in rural areas. Same thing with our virtual support groups. You can join from anywhere. And then our, the information that we have as far as our information specialist team goes, they have information even for places that are rural. For those states that are rural, we have our state resource lists. So we're well equipped to help people in rural populations and rural communities. And we really understand how difficult it is sometimes for them to access support and things like medical care, especially if they're living somewhere that's far from a hospital or a medical facility. That's really tough.
Absolutely. So we're getting close on time, which I really hate to stop this conversation, but it won't stop here. I think we can talk more offline about other opportunities, one of which is coming up very quickly, our annual Consumer Voice Conference. I'll send Rebecca and Emily, I'll send y'all some information about that conference, but I'm thinking that we have exhibit tables. So if you're available and want to exhibit, you can, or send us some materials we can share with Ombudsman. That would be fantastic. So with that, I'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Just reminding you all that we do have a page with information for individuals with disabilities on the NORC website. So there's the URL and a screenshot. And we do have the previous webinar that we did a few years ago on that page, as well as some other excellent information about assistive technology and access to that as well. Next slide. Thank you. For those of you that did not receive information about this webinar directly, maybe you received it from your supervisor or a peer, please sign up for our listserv. That's how we connect directly with you about training opportunities, resources, and more. Next. And I'm just dropping this link in the chat right now. We do want to hear from you, the good, the bad, the ugly. That's how we make sure that we do our best to meet your needs as far as training and education goes. So please fill out the Survey Monkey. The link is right there in the chat and in the slides. Provide us feedback about this discussion today and also what you want to learn more about. And we can work on shaping that training. Next slide. All right, so we are right at the top of the hour. So final slide for today. Want to make sure that you have all the ways to connect with us after this webinar. Of course, our website, our info email, which is ombudscenter@theconsumervoice.org. We are on social media as well. And we also have an app. Just to let you know, if you don't have the app and you are trying to download it right after this, we're having an issue with the Google Play, and we're working on fixing that. So if you don't have an iPhone and you have something, an Android that operates on that platform, we are trying to get that fixed. So again, huge thank you to our speakers, Rebecca and Emily. This is such an invaluable resource, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you, Katie, for helping me on the back end with the logistics. And thank you all for joining us today and for the advocacy you do every single day out in the field. So appreciate your work, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need something. So have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.